That's right, everybody. Zack Snyder's newest film, Rebel Moon Part 1, A Child of Fire, is getting wrecked by critics. Rotten Tomatoes is just but a highlight of the wrecking. You take a look right now, critically, it has a 23%. And this does not give me any joy. It does not. I'm a fan of Zack Snyder. I am going to watch this film. I am curious to see what this movie is. I'm curious to see what his ideas would have been for a Star Wars film had Lucasfilm allowed him to make a Star Wars movie. But the thing about this is we're getting into this discussion now about Zack Snyder, because it's getting to a point now where Zack is no longer this director who is a sure bet. And honestly, he's never been a sure bet. You go back as far as his first film, Dawn of the Dead. That movie wasn't a massive hit. People enjoyed it. It was a good remake of a horror classic, but it wasn't like a huge hit. And you start to go through his filmography. You take a look at something like 300, which was a fun film. It was a movie that a lot of people enjoyed. Watchmen. He's got the Owl movie. Sucker Punch was not a big hit. Man of Steel. But you start to see this trend with Zack Snyder, and he's not a critic darling. He's not a director that critics love to talk highly about. But it's not just that critics don't like to talk highly about him. It's that he has a specific type of directing. He has a specific way of making films that most people just don't enjoy. That's not a bad thing. That's not a negative on the man. That's not a bad way of talking about a director, because there's many directors who are like that. There's people who don't like Quentin Tarantino. There's people who don't like Martin Scorsese. There's people who don't like Christopher Nolan. And that is okay. It's just that those other directors that I've mentioned are critic darlings. They are ones that critics absolutely adore. But for some reason, critics just don't like Zack Snyder. Now, the one thing that a lot of people are getting mad about is because when you take a look at a lot of the reviews, and when you get into it, I'm not going to dive into the full reviews, but you'll see that a lot of what is said here is basically stating, like, this is a movie that Zack Snyder's fans will enjoy. Now, they don't say it in that regard. They say it in a way where Zack Snyder, goes hard on appeasing his cult or goes hard on appeasing his fans and stuff like that. And people are upset about that. His fans, Zack Snyder's fans, are upset that the critics are saying that a Zack Snyder film is going to be beloved or loved by his fans. That kind of baffles me. But it makes sense. We know how Zack is. We know that he makes a particular type of film. We know that he loves to use slow motion to his detriment. I mean, he's got to stop. He has to stop with the slow motion. It's like, J.J. Abrams with his lens flare thing. Zack Snyder has the same issue with slow-mo. He's got to pull back on the slow motion. Yes, you could use it sometimes, but when you overuse it, it kind of ruins the effect. It ruins what it's supposed to bring to the movie. He's making the film he wants to make, and that's fine. But what's confusing to me, when you take a look at this movie, and we know that there's a lot of issues that were going to come of this. I brought this up quite a few times on the Bridging the Geekdoms podcast, where they made two movies. They made a PG-13 version and a rated R version, which is an hour longer. And I said, if you can't, you got to make the best movie you can make and release it. That's how you have to do it. And if Zack Snyder cannot make, if Netflix wants a 2-hour long movie or a 2.5 hour long movie, and he can't make the best movie he can make in that amount of time, then he shouldn't be making the movie. It's that simple. And I hate how people sit there and say, whoa, the artistic integrity. I agree, the artistic integrity, but you are not a good artist if you can't fit within certain parameters. Yeah, and I just said that. Okay? Because there are certain parameters you have to meet. And this whole idea that, oh, Zack should be allowed to cook and make a 4-hour-long movie, a 6-hour-long movie, whatever he wants to make, that's not how it works. First off, people's attention spans aren't built for 3 or 4 hour long films. 2 hours, that's kind of what people are built for. 2.5 hours is pushing it. Yes, Zack Snyder's Justice League at 4 hours. You know what one of the biggest complaints was of that movie? Is that it was 4 hours long. You had the overuse of slow motion, the overuse of Wonder Woman's theme, and that it was 4 hours. Those were the 3 big issues of Zack Snyder's Justice League. So, you have Netflix and Zack Snyder who sit down and say, we're going to make a movie. Zack Snyder puts together a film, and it's 3 hours long. Netflix like, no. We need it around 2 hours. Well, Zack's like, well, all right, we'll do that as long as I get to release this. And Netflix, yeah, whatever, just make 2 hours. And now we get a 2 hour long movie that isn't getting very good reviews. And now we're going to see where this 3 hour long movie comes out, and it may be better. It may get better ratings. It may be loved by more people. It may not. Because a lot of the issues that we're seeing from the critics here with the use of slow motion, it's a lot of the Zack Snyder issues. The story's kind of a mess. The slow motion, the overuse of slow motion, just the little intricacies that Snyder, when his ideas are too big for what he wants to do. Is that going to be highlighted in a 3 hour long film? Is it going to be fixed in a 3 hour long film? That's to be seen. Now, we're told that it's going to come out before Part 2 does in April. Rebel Moon Part 2. But it's going to be interesting. I don't know. I think people are freaking out about this. Obviously, go see the movie for yourself. Go watch the movie. You don't need to sit there and take a look at scores from Rotten Tomatoes and decide, oh, I'm not going to see a movie. That's ridiculous. I say that all the time. But it is a good sense where you can sit here and you can go read reviews and see where the issues are. You can see that, yes, a lot of the issues that you may have had with Zack Snyder movies in the past are still in this Zack Snyder movie. He hasn't changed it. He hasn't adjusted. So you may not want to see it, but I do encourage you to see it. The nice thing is if you already pay for Netflix, you get to see it for free. So that's a bonus, right? That's a bonus. You don't have to pay for it. That's kind of nice. With all that said, let me know your thoughts on Rebel Moon Part 1 of Child of Fire. Do you plan on seeing it? How do you feel about these reviews? Do you think this audience score right now at 72% is going to go up or down? Do you think that the Snyder Bros are actually kind of, maybe cheating a little bit here and putting in false and fake reviews just to kind of help bolster it? That's kind of the rumor going around the Twitterverse right now. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you hit that like button, hit subscribe. And with all that said, I'll talk at all of you later.